everybody, and welcome to episode 62 of the I Rock Knits podcast. My name is Cori Eichelberger, and I am known as I Rock Knits everywhere on the internets. I Rock is just Cori spelled backwards, but I do knit in a rocker recliner, so it seemed relevant at the time when I was picking a Ravelry name. I am 20 days post foot surgery and 11 days post hand surgery, and I took a shower standing up this morning. That was a revelation. And this is the second time in the last week that I've been out of my pajamas. So you're getting the best of me right now. I actually got dressed today and asked my husband to help me set up the area here a little bit so that I could do a podcast. I'm just a little bit sorry for how tired I looked on the last podcast that I did. But if you're new, I have recently had 3 surgeries since September. My left hand, my right hand, and my left foot. So I am on the mend. I should be all brand spanking new with lots of new parts by 2021. The recovery has been slow in the last couple of weeks here, but that's mostly because I had 2 surgeries at the same time. My foot is doing great. I got my sutures out last Tuesday, and the nurse said, okay, now you can try to walk. She put a boot on my foot, one of those walking boots, and I had put a little bit of weight on my foot, and it, has absolutely felt so much better. I mean, I knew it was fixed almost right after surgery, but I've been riding a scooter for a week, 10 days before I actually got the go ahead to now move into the walking boot with limited weight bearing. And I'll be in that for 2 weeks, and then a shoe with limited weight bearing for 2 more weeks. So I have about another month, I figure, in the recliner. So I can now walk to the bathroom and back, walk to the kitchen and back, but not a lot of standing, or she said, no trips to Target, no walking, no going out, spending your day on your foot, not yet. So that was a little disappointing because I'm not having a ton of pain. I mean, I do have a scar on the bottom of my foot, so it's not fun to step on it, but it's not too painful. So I was kind of hoping that would move forward a little bit quicker. And then I got my hand stitches out. There aren't really stitches, they're inside, but on each end they leave a long tail of suture, and so those have to be snipped off. And I saw my physical therapist, who was the same guy that I saw when I had my left hand done. I kind of requested him because I figured, we'd kind of gotten to know one another, and he knew about my knitting and everything. So I did that on Thursday, and he made me my custom hand brace, which is just this little thing to keep my thumb from bending. I can bend that top part, and I have pretty good mobility in my fingers, but that will be on for 6 weeks, and that's for the other one. Now there will come a time where I will be able to take it off for short periods of time, like when I'm sitting in the chair and I can try knitting, and I think I did that about 2 or 3 weeks into the last recovery, but you just have to be really careful not to tweak it. Like, you don't want to bump it or bend it the wrong way, hit it or anything. So if you're up and moving about, you have to keep the brace on the entire time. But it felt great to get the cast off. I had a little allergic reaction on my forearm to something. I'm not really sure what, but when I went in that Tuesday to get my foot cast off, I stopped by the hand area and just said, I can stick my finger up in there, and it's bumpy and rashy. And so then they unwrapped the cast and took a look at it and didn't think it was anything too significant. I thought it was kind of significant. I mean, I still have kind of a rash, and I obviously have scratched it a little bit, but anyway, we got some cortisone cream and we're treating it ourselves. So I don't know if it was the betadine or some tape maybe that was on there. I don't know. So anyway, thank you so much to so many of you for your well wishes, your kind comments, your comments on the last podcast, your nice words about my husband Ross, who is an amazing guy. I'm so fortunate. I'm a very dramatic soul, very emotional, lots of highs and lows in my days, and he's just really even-keeled and calm and never gets upset and always has a good attitude about helping, which I don't often have. Like, I don't think I could have done this for him in the way that he did it for me, right? I would just say, hey, can you grab me an ice pack? And he'd be like, sure. And he, you know, I'd say anytime, it doesn't have to be right now. And, you know, he'd get up and go to the kitchen and get it. And he's just easygoing, and he doesn't feel burdened by doing the extra. There's no, you know, tit for tat. You know, he's, I think I've told you guys before, he's kind of a neatnik. He's a little bit of a cleaner. He cleans up the kitchen after dinner. He always vacuums, does the laundry, always washes the sheets on the weekend. He just has kind of a rhythm and a flow, and so he does a lot around here. And to ask him then to also take on cooking some meals, which he's not great at, very methodical, needs to know all the exact measurements, can't just throw in some chili powder. I could sit and tell him what to do, but is pretty unable to, you know, help. So he's done great and been super helpful. And I did tell him last night, I said, you know, he's the best husband I've ever had. And he laughed. So we're doing okay on this end. You know, I've still got many weeks probably here before I'm fully ready to get back to my walking the dog and exercising, and it'll be just in time for us to get a whole ton of snow probably, but and no driving. I asked if I could start driving because I had a boot on my left foot for 2 months this fall, and I drove all over. If I had to go to an appointment, I took myself, and but now that I have my hand in a brace too, their thought was that if something would happen and I got out of the car and I had a foot problem and a hand problem, they would probably blame me. So I probably shouldn't at least drive for at least a couple more weeks. I haven't taken any significant painkillers since, you know, the surgeries, 1 day each kind of, but anyway. So husband has to take me. That's kind of a pain to ask him during the middle of the day. So my daughter drove out last week and drove all the way out here. If you're from Minnesota, she lives in St. Paul, Minneapolis. She's a good 45 minutes to an hour away from our home now, and so she has to drive out here. Then we go back at least a half an hour into the city in Bloomington to Tria, and then she has to bring me back. Then she had to go back. So we kind of tag teamed a little bit, where my husband took me and dropped me off, and then she came pick me up, or she would drop me off and he would try to pick me up. It just to try to make no one can go in with you, so then they have to sit in the car, and if it's cold out, it's kind of a pain to sit in your car because you have to run it. But we don't have any snow here in Minnesota yet. Really, it's just shocking. Little teeny pile in the front yard and a lot of grass showing, which is just not usually the case for us. But I think we're going to get snow Wednesday, so we should have a white Christmas. It has been really nice. I see lots more people out walking their dogs going by because there's no snow, so it's not icy. So you don't have to have like special cleats on your shoes to kind of get around. But that's the Cori update. What am I wearing today? I tried to kind of Christmas it up, even though both the items that were next in line this week were blue. I thought maybe I should try to find something red or green, but anyway, this is the Better Than Summer Cowl. It is by Cynthia Cushing, who was the yarn shop owner of my local yarn store for a number of years. It is a free pattern on Ravelry, Even Better Than Summer Cowl. It is done in the pictures on that page. It is done in a solid, and so she didn't add directions on this free pattern for alternating, but that is a mohair with a sequins in the center, and then this is just a really soft kind of worsted weight yarn. The thing I think is knit on a size 9. I made these about 3 years ago. So I made my mom a red and white one. So it's kind of Christmassy, candy caney, using white with little sequins. And then I thought it would be kind of fun to make one in more of a lime green and red, just instead of dark green. So I used Haiku by S.A.C.K.s. That's the yarn, and then the Shulana Kid mohair with paillettes. I think that's the way you say the little sequins. I'm hoping you can see the sparkle as I move it, because I can. So that's what I put on today. I haven't really worn a lot of knitwear recently. Lots of pajamas at my house. I don't have a finished audiobook this time, but I do want to mention books that I talked about in the last couple weeks. I had a few people comment on Daisy Jones and the Six, and we've gone back and forth. And if you know what my surprise issue was with that book. Like, I was just so shocked, and I don't want to give anything away to anyone. Don't go out and read about the book too much first, right? It's a rock band in the late 70s that had, problems with drugs and alcohol and relationships in the band, and then they broke up. But it is just, there's just a shocking a shocking piece to that story that I was unaware of. And so I highly recommend that. The couple of people that talked to me about it said they really liked it too. I didn't know if it would be for everyone. There is some foul language and, sex, drugs, rock and roll. I talked about that a little bit. And then the other book that I talked about was In 5 Years. And several people have now chimed in that they read that. And one, my good friend Stacy, who's a test and sample knitter for me and who I've traveled with to knitting events. She lives in Tennessee, and she picked it up after I talked about it on the podcast. And this is that 5-hour novel that's told in an interesting way. And she said she couldn't put it down either. She finished it in practically a day. And she chimed in and she said, I'm loving this, and I can't wait to see where it's headed. And then someone else chimed in and said the same thing. And it is a book that is so fascinating in the way in which it's told and the subject matter that it sticks with you afterwards. Like, I find myself thinking about it afterwards, and that's not the case for me with a lot of books. Like, I'll read them, enjoy them, and move on, and many times not think about them much afterwards. And that book was just one that was an experience. And so I just wanted to bring those up, because now that I've talked to a couple of people, we've gone back in Instagram messages and emails, I might not have done them as much justice as I could have, because I was trying not to tell too much of the story. So I've started a new book, but I haven't gotten very far. I'm mostly watching TV during the day and doing a little bit of computer work. I did sit down and answer the comments from all of the podcast last time yesterday. It just took me a while. I can kind of type with these 4 fingers now. They're getting limbered up. And this hand, of course, gets fatigued, and I didn't want to overdo. So a lot of your comments are kind of short and sweet, but I did get in there yesterday and kind of comment back to all of you. So if you got that, that's why I had kind of put that off for the last couple weeks. I have a couple of recipes for you this week, though. I was thinking about it as I was sitting with my feet up, sharing maybe some Christmas ideas for anybody who's celebrating that Hanukkah, that holiday. Happy Hanukkah to any of you who celebrate that. I know this is an interesting time of year for people who are Jewish. We have a member of our knitting group, and it's just awkward and difficult when everything rains Christmas, this time of year, and you don't have that faith system or value system or whatever. So I just want to wish those folks a happy Hanukkah as they finished that out. But I have a kind of appetizer idea and a dessert idea for you this week. Most of us are not getting together with friends and family and won't be doing as much cooking, even if we're getting together with 1 or 2 people or just kind of keeping it to our household. So I thought maybe I could find a couple recipes that I use this time of year that are smaller portioned or that keep well. And so the first one is the dessert, and it is a cheesecake, a chocolate raspberry cheesecake. And you make it in kind of that large 9-inch pie plate, and you can purchase the graham cracker crust already in that pie plate for ease if you choose to, or you can make your own, graham cracker crust with butter and sugar and press it into a pie tin. And then you have 2 packages of cream cheese, a can of sweetened condensed milk, an egg, lemon juice, vanilla extract, and then fresh or frozen strawberries. And you preheat your oven and you mix all of those ingredients together with your mixer, and then you arrange your raspberries on the bottom of the crust, and then you pour that mixture on top, and then you bake it. And I have a little picture here. You put a chocolate ganache on the top. Super rich. Your sliver needs to be about this big. Not overwhelmingly sticky, cloyingly sweet, but just rich, delicious. Keeps really well. And I served this with 2 other desserts one year for Christmas, and no one ate the other desserts. Everyone chose this. So I just wanted to put that out there, that if you were maybe only, baking for a small group of people, or, you wanted to maybe share a couple of slices with a neighbor, put it on their front step, that kind of thing. And the chocolate glaze is just chocolate chips and a little bit of whipping cream that you melt down, and then you pour it over, and then you put it in the fridge and it gets cold. I use milk chocolate chips. I prefer in my desserts, a lot of times I will prefer a milk chocolate to a dark chocolate, but that's your preference. So I will put that in the Ravelry group, and as well as the show notes that are below here, just the title of what it is. I'm sure you could Google chocolate raspberry cheesecake and something would come up, but it's really good. And then I have 2 appetizers that I'm just going to mention really quickly here, because this one keeps super well. It's a tomato cheddar spread, and you serve it with crackers. And it makes just a little kind of dish or bowl or crock of it. And it uses Rotel diced tomatoes and chilies, cup of mayo, Worcestershire sauce, 2 8-ounce blocks of sharp cheddar cheese shredded. And they don't recommend the pre-shredded. They recommend you shred it yourself. And then a jar of chopped pimento. And you stir it all together and it's done. So if you have the ingredients, it's really easy. And that's kind of what it looks like. It's tomato, cheesy, Worcestershire saucy. It does have a mayo base, but it's the Worcestershire sauce is strong and intense, and the cheddar is strong. So I don't feel like it tastes like mayo at all. I don't know that people would even recognize that it's mayo in there if you have people who don't like mayonnaise. But anyway, easy. You can serve it on sandwiches. Apparently you can use it as a spread. So if you have it, if you want to have a little cocktail on Christmas Eve and you're looking for something small and pretty easy to make, you just once you shred your cheese, you just mix it in a bowl and put it in the fridge, and it saved for days afterwards. And then the other one is a hot crab dip that you can serve in one of those round loaves. You can cut out the center and pour it in there, and then cube up that bread, or you can just serve it with crackers or bread cubed. It's a container of soft cream cheese, milk, mayonnaise, horseradish, a can of crab meat, celery salt, and then they use rye bread. I used rye, and then I also bought one of those Hawaiian round loaves, the sweet Hawaiian bread, which the kids loved, and then a cup of cheddar cheese. And you preheat your oven, mix that all together, and bake it for half an hour beforehand. And it stayed really hot on a hot pad in my little, I think it was an 8x8 pan, and I just put a big spoon in there, and people dished it onto their plates. It was delicious. So I'll put that one in there too. Not going to spend too much time on recipes, but I love to cook and entertain and have people over and try new recipes at least once a week. I'm printing recipes off the internet. I have this huge stack, and it's on my list of things to do in the next week or two, is to go through and kind of weed out all of my recipe pile. One of those things that I put on my list of things to do when you're laid out. A couple of podcast recommendations for you this week. I've been watching lots of podcasts, but I watched The Woolpatch, and that is a UK-based podcast on YouTube. She is on episode 7, and she has a yarn and fabric, which is really interesting. So I would recommend that one. I just watched one episode, and then I watched Dragon Hoard yarn. Trystan from Utah. She is a yarn dyer and she's doing Vlogmas. And so I watched one of her Vlogmas episodes and then went back and started an earlier one just to see what her format looked like. She's also a yarn knitwear designer. She's got, I don't know, 30 or so patterns out there. Some very interesting designs, pretty designs. She's got one with like a moons around the yoke that has is a swancho or a poncho. Got quite a few sweaters, lots of hats. So you might want to give Trystan a watch. And then a new one to me, which is knitting with cat hair, and that is Nikki from Sudbury, Ontario. It's northern, I think, rural or small town, she said. Ontario. Her podcast starts out with a lot of snow. She shows a lot of snow. Now, her mom, Laurie, was on the last podcast with her, and she has 5 cats, lives with her partner in Northern Ontario. So she says she's never going to knit with cat hair, so don't be disappointed. But she feels like she's always knitting with cat hair because she's got 5 cats. So that's kind of clever. And then I've been watching Boston Jen, and Boston Jen is the Cellar Studio podcast. It's an audio podcast. She's got many episodes. She's been really diligent over the years. I don't listen to as many audio podcasts anymore, that I don't spend as much time in the car. I used to listen to them religiously, and when I was walking, I would listen always, but I haven't been doing a lot of walking either. But she's doing Vlogmas on YouTube, so I went over and watched a bit of that. She is running the pigskin party right now, so any of you that are involved in that, that's the kickoff during the NFL football season, and then you knit throughout the entire season until the Super Bowl. Tons of prizes, tons of sponsors, lots of group chatter out there. If you're looking for a place to connect on Ravelry and you want to just spend some time chatting with people and other knitters or asking questions, she's got a really active thread, and she has someone who helps her run that. So there's someone that's always there to kind of keep the commentary moving and, you know, the comments answered and that kind of thing. So that might be something that you're interested in. So the Cellar Studio podcast group on Ravelry or Pigskin Party on Instagram, the hashtag, you could follow that. So there, 4 different podcasts for you this week. I received a package in the mail, and it was a bunch of information from Stacy Weiner, and she is the woman who started the soap S.A.C.K, S-A.C.K, which is supporting a community with kindness, S-A.C.K. And she sent me a whole bunch of information on this project. I've seen other podcasters talk about this before and mention it and set up kind of a knit along to participate in this. Sorry, Cody's under the table. But she sent me what they do, and they make soap sacks that have a bar of soap in them. So she sent me 3 different soap sacks. They can be crocheted or knit. Is a 501c3 nonprofit organization where people knit and crochet sacks and then donate them with a bar of soap in each one to homeless shelters, food pantries, veterans clinics, LGBTQ organizations, social service agencies, and relief efforts. She started this in 2017, and over 110,000 soap sacks have been made. I mean, Stacy is rocking it. And here's a quote from her. Most people are not aware that basic toiletries such as soap cannot be purchased with food stamps. Therefore, the need for these items is essential, especially during this current pandemic. Personal hygiene is critically important at this uncertain time, and our soap sacks are filling a more important need than ever now. We're donating the bar of soap, but the handmade sack, which includes a tag explaining where they came from, provides a heartfelt addition that our recipients truly appreciate. Our soap sack donations help to send a message of dignity, hope, compassion, health, and love. So I'm going to open a thread in the Ravelry group with the information that you would need. And she is just asking you to maybe knit or crochet a few of these sacks and then donate them locally. So I'm not looking to collect them from people. I'm not looking for people to mail them in. You would just find a organization that is collecting things, a food pantry, a food shelf, a church organization. I would think even, your local, I would think any local homeless shelter that you could contact, you could drop them off. Maybe your local yarn store would be a collection site for them, and then they would drop them off. And so you could reach out to, by email, a local yarn store and send them the information. She has a Facebook group under S.A.C.K., and then there's also an Instagram tag. So there's lots of places to find more information. And once I get back to knitting, I will definitely be making, a couple of these little pattern is out there on their website for crochet and knitted ones. I think they're not knitting around. They're seamed up the side. So this one is seed stitch with a seam right here. So folded in half and seamed here. So super easy to do. If you have leftover cotton, you could certainly use your scraps and let me think. You could stripe it, you could color block it. It looks like it has a little chain at the top for it to be hung up on something. I just think it's a great thing. Going into the new year, I try to set my intentions for the new year. I'll be doing some resolutions, things that I want to think about going forward in 2021. And I do agree that during this pandemic, there are a lot more people in need. And so what a great opportunity for us to participate in something. So thank you so much, Stacy, for reaching out to me, sending me that whole box of stuff. Let's do our shawl of the week this week, which really isn't a shawl, but I always bring it along to my shawl class because I just think it's such an interesting project and such a great construction. This is Spectra by Stephen West. This is a fingering weight scarf knit on US size 5 needles. There are 3,871 projects on Ravelry, which means probably twice as many people have knit it. It came out in 2011, and it is an adult scarf. You could shorten it for a child. It has short rows. It's knit in one piece. It's striped. It's worked flat. It's a written pattern. A pattern is available on Ravelry for $6. It is also available in Japanese. It is 72 inches long, and you use 2 different colorways. So you use about 420 yards of color A and about 230 yards of color B. There are so many inspirational color choices out on Ravelry for you to go look at, but I did mine in the black with the county self-striping yarn, so I chose a yarn that was going to kind of do its own thing. The beauty of this piece is that this top edge gets a little tight right here, and you're working back and forth this way, and so when you get done, it just does this. It automatically coils, and what a beautiful way for this to work. I would love to see this attached to a sweater, because I just think if this part right here was attached to the sweater and then this was your front 2 pieces, it would just be dynamic. So let me show you a little bit more of it up close. Cast on, and you do a little bit of garter stitch, and then you just knit back and forth doing short rows, and then you insert your black, and then you go back and forth. So you're not going all the way over and back, you're going part way. Can you kind of see that? Then you go part way, and then you go all the way and come back. So the rows are all incredibly short. That's how it works. I think I just kept going until I got through almost all of my colors. Mine starts with the kind of the orange, and then starts with the orange and then goes to the reds and then goes to the purples. I'm just hanging that on my index finger right there, and then goes to the blues, and then the green, and then the yellow, and then it would go back to orange. Really fun to knit. And if you've never done short rows, by the time you're done with this, you'll never forget how to do a short row and never have trouble with it again, right? They're not difficult. They do make for, you know, shorter knitting, because you just go over and back, over and back. I don't remember if you pick up the short rows as you come back to them. I'll try to look here. Doesn't look like it, but maybe. But a really fun knit. And if you've got a skein of self-striping yarn lying around, I think this would be really perfect for it. He used Noro Silk Garden Sock for his self-striping colorway, and then Madeline Tosh Merino Light for his solid. And there are 37 yarn ideas out on Ravelry for other choices that you could make. Let me know in the comments if you've made the Spectra scarf, because I sure think that it was an interesting concept and really fun to knit. I really enjoyed knitting that back in the day. I have worn this sweater on the podcast before and talked about it briefly, but we are now to the T's of the sweaters, and this is the 3 for the road sweater. And this is by Barry Klein and Laura Bryant, and it's out of the book Knitting with Novelty Yarns. I don't know if it's an independent pattern, but you could probably check the book out of your local library or get it as a used copy on Amazon or your local used bookstore. There are not very many projects made, and I think I'm finding that that's often true. Books is that they can have kind of a hidden gem in them, but nobody really found it. They might buy the book and might look through, but not ever sit down and actually knit from them. I mean, I have a ton of books on my knitting shelf, and I haven't knit half the patterns out of there, even if I have post-it notes in there of the pattern that I wanted to make. So that's one of the reasons to have all of your books and your magazines and stuff on Ravelry, because then if you're out there searching, it will also search your library for things you already own that you wanted to make at some point and you never did. I want to make this again in regular yarn, because this was knit using novelty yarn, using 3 different kinds of novelty yarn, a ribbon, kind of a flag novelty, and then kind of a shiny silk wrapped thread novelty. I will take a picture and show it up close so that you can kind of see how that goes. It was knit on a size US 7, even though the yarns were all quite fine yarns, meaning small in circumference. It's technically listed as DK weight, 20 stitches, and the whole thing is knit in half linen stitch. So it's knit 1, slip 1, knit 1, slip 1, knit 1, slip 1, and you go across with color A or yarn A. And then when you're over here, you turn around and you go back with yarn B, and you slip 1, knit 1, slip 1, knit 1. And then when you get over here, you go back with row C, color C, and you knit 1, slip 1, knit 1, slip 1, and then you've got a different color over here to pick up. So then you go back to A, B, C, and then you're over here. So then you pick up A, B, C, and so the whole thing is this linen stitch that shifts and changes throughout the pattern, and it's just the most wearable little short-sleeved cardigan. I love their numbers. I love their sizing on this. It when I did it, it fits. The fit is exemplary, which is not always the case, right? So it calls for 4, 5, or 6 skeins of 3 different kinds of yarn, which is, you know, not all that popular anymore, and it's probably harder to find. But I want to knit it in just like a DK weight, 3 different colors of yarn, maybe a speckle, and then 2 solids that I like or go together, because I think the mix of the colors would just be super fun to knit. This is adult, bottom up. It has buttonholes and cap sleeves. It has a crocheted edging. It is fitted. It has set-in sleeves. It has a shirt collar. It's worked flat, V-neck, written pattern. So that's all the little tags there for you. It takes 1,200 to 1,800 yards and is written for sizes 35, 38, 42, and 46. So not a huge size range. It came out in 2001, long before we were talking about sizing for all body shapes and styles. but it came out, like I said, in that book. And I didn't knit it till several years later. I think I saw it in a yarn store as a sample. It might have been with Laura, Bryant, and Barry both work for Prism. They worked for Prism and had their own company for a while, and were doing sales, yarn sales. I met them at a show, a knitting show, Stitches maybe, back in the day, or might have been Vogue when it was here many, many years ago. Anyway, so they've been in the industry a long time. They, were yarn reps, did yarn sales, and then also designed patterns to go with those yarns, which totally makes sense. So this is just a perfect little short-sleeved, kind of hits me at the high hip, well-written, easy to knit pattern. Now, linen stitch is not hard. Knit, slip, knit, slip. However, linen stitch doesn't grow very quickly. And if any of you have ever tried to make a linen stitch scarf or a linen stitch cowl, you know that it kind of takes forever, because you have to do 2 or 3 rows of knitting before you ever really get any height. And it's just a more compressed stitch. So it was more knitting than it would seem from looking at the size of the little sweater because of that linen stitch. But it was so interesting to work and watch those 3 different yarns kind of happen. I'm going to take it off the mannequin. You have this little blue, light blue ribbon yarn, and then you have the little flags that are navy blue and yellow, and then you have the turquoise, which is silk wrapped, which is the shiny part. Can you see that it's shining at all in that? I have sparkly buttons. It's really hard to hold things up without using your thumb, but we'll get there, right? You're all being very gentle. When I teach this, the sweater class, where I bring in 60 different sweaters and talk about it, I have a couple in that class where I talk about them being well finished, well appointed, or business attire appropriate. So if you're working in, say, an office, or you need to have like a more fitted button up kind of jacket look, there are a couple in the grouping that would hit that, and this is one of them. So I hope it's showing as well as it fits, and that it looks as nice as it does in real life, because it really is a sweater that could function as a professional kind of looking jacket. The other one is Miss BB by Bommery Burns. That is also a kind of button up the front V-neck collared sweater that can work and look and function as a jacket if you work in more, just a little bit more professional setting, other than right now when nobody's probably really going to. Just some things I have to tell you. The Knitwords book is on sale on my website. It costs $20. It is currently being shipped worldwide, although shipping internationally is very expensive. I think some of the places we did practice shipments on were about $20 for shipping, $23 for shipping. And if you live, outside of the US, those things and those kinds of amounts. So it is possible for you to check out and get the book, but I wouldn't recommend it. Just get the ebook. So you can get the ebook on my website, or you can get the ebook on you can get the ebook on Etsy. And those are all options for you. You purchase the book through my website, check out via PayPal, and then I get a notification. Usually it takes a little bit of time for PayPal to ship that over to me, an hour or so, a few minutes or whatever, for it to get to me. And then I gather those for the day or 2 days, depending on, like last week when we were trying to figure out coordination of some things, and I couldn't get it to work, and I had to spend some time online with Rick, Amber's husband, who owns the printing company, who's doing the printing on demand. He had to take control of my computer and look at some things to try to figure out why it wasn't working for me. And then we've done that another time since. And we're not really sure why my ISBN number isn't working, and we just couldn't get it. Well, he got it, but I couldn't get it. which always makes you feel a little, you know, silly and dumb. Like, why can't I do this? And then he came in and we figured it out. So the books are selling, and then they get shipped out from central to southern Illinois, middle and then south Illinois. So depending on where you live in relationship to that, because they're not coming from Minnesota, which is where I am, they will come through that. And then when you check out, most people are paying about $3.15 to 40 cents for shipping, on top of that $20 book fee. And in the number you get the 8 patterns, 10 musings, little stories, funny stories that I told. You get a coloring page, you get an alphabetic chart for all letters of the alphabet, and you get all the charts for all the different words in the book, as well as a coloring page. Did I say that? Sorry. And this is just a gentle reminder that if you purchase the Knitwords book, or you purchase the Minnesota 52 book and you have not yet knit a single pattern out of them, you spent good money for those patterns. Come on, you need to go look through those and get out some yarn and cast some of those things on, because you've got 16 patterns from the Minnesota 52 book that some of you bought, and then also 8 new patterns from the Knitwords book. I know a lot of you plan in the new year to cast on a lanyard, and some of you are making the pillows. I know I talked to a couple of people who had picked colors out, and as soon as Christmas is over, you plan to cast on for those pillows. I put all of my hat patterns on sale yesterday, and I will remember to go put them on sale on Etsy, because I'm going to write myself a note right now, because I was going to do that last night and I forgot. But they're 50% off on Ravelry using the coupon code HATS2020. And I have 10 hat patterns, and I know that at this time of year, people are sometimes looking for last minute holiday gifts and want to do something fun and interesting, but not too difficult. And so I have my Friendship Road hat that a lot of people were unaware that was even out there, because it came out separate from the Minnesota 52 book. It has the same stitches, but the crown is super interesting on that one and very fun to knit. I also have the Chimney hat still out there for you know, this kind of Christmas time, and then my old-fashioned stocking hat pattern, which I grabbed the samples out here so that I could show those again this year. Here was the original prototype, which is the old-fashioned stocking hat that's super long. It has a giant pom-pom with all the colors in it. And I have these written in worsted and fingering weight size for your needles. So this pattern includes 4 or 5 sizes, you know, kids up to adult, and then it also includes worsted weight version, which this one would be. The worsted weight version, which this one would be, to show you kind of a speckle. And then it has a tassel on the end of it. And then this one is a worsted weight version, specifically in that kind of holiday themed colors. This is the long, then there's a shorter version. For both of them, there's a long version and a short version, depending on how much length you want. And this is the fingering weight version using a single skein of sock yarn. This is not self-striping sock yarn. This is just sock yarn that was kind of micro-striped, one of those that they dyed, and it changes as you work on it. So you get some flashing when you start, and then it works up into stripes as you go up, and then little itty bitty stripes all the way up. And it has, I did a little 2-color pom-pom on that one. Yeah. So, oh man, sorry. That is available out there. I think almost all my hat patterns are $5 or $6, and so you're going to get them for $2.50 or $3, and you can put all 10 in your cart and check out for 50% off, or put 3 in your cart, or you don't have to just choose one, is all I'm saying. You don't need to buy 10 hat patterns, but you could just put those in your cart, as many as you like, and then if you are not celebrating Christmas or until, you know, later, and you just need to make one more hat. You know, sometimes I hear people say, I just have to knit one more hat for one more gift and then I'll be done, that kind of thing. I thought, well, I'll put my hats on sale and help people out a little bit. One more thing I want to tell everybody about is, if I can hold this up with my left hand, this is the Knit Happy with Self-Striping Yarn by Stephanie Lotvin, who is Telly Bee Knits on Ravelry and her website, and I got my copy in the mail, and what an amazing feat. Such a happy book. So colorful. I just, look at that. Self-striping yarn. I think Stephanie was probably originally early on kind of known for the sock arm sweater, where she took the mustache yarn, self-striping yarn, and added it to the sleeves of a sweater to make them. But she's got 25 patterns in this book, something like that, 24 something. I mean, it's incredible the amount of patterns in this book. She's got mittens. Well, here, I'll read off what they are. Mittens and mitts, hats and bonnets, cowls, shawls, and cardigans and sweaters. And there are 5 chapters, and each chapter has like 5 patterns in it. It was a lot of work for her to write this. Oh, this is just... And she did all of her own photography, which is amazing, because during a pandemic, they had to build a little photo booth in their backyard. She and her husband, to get all the photos shot. Okay, here's the back cover, which will show you some more of the patterns. So mine came in the mail, and I thought I had talked about it on the podcast, but I should just show it. It is available wherever books are sold. So Amazon, I think Target. She has, this is a published book through Page Street Publishing, and so they do, distribution for her. And bright, fun, and colorful sweaters and accessories made easy. Just so many. She's got some kids patterns in here. Really cute, fun. If you've got self-striping sock yarn and you don't want to make socks anymore, or you want to use some of it up for other things, I just highly recommend. So I'm going to try to flip through this like this, only holding with my, okay, so mittens, hat, I'm sorry, I'm low on the screen here, bonnet, cowls, shawls. Oh my goodness, I'm just barely balancing this, you guys. I'm resting it on my chest. Ridiculous, Corey. Little baby sweater. Oh, I really liked that one. I thought that was really cute. Yoked sweater. So yeah, I highly recommend. If you're looking for a Christmas present for yourself, you could probably order it tomorrow and get it on Amazon. No, I shouldn't say that. The workers are so overworked right now. It's just so sad that we all started ordering everything online when we went into lockdown, and then now we have the Christmas season, and we are expecting those workers to work overtime and nights and weekends, and some of them without great breaks or food. It's incredible that some of the stories that are out there, isn't it? I put treats on my front step. I hung them out there and said, please take one. And I had a guy the other day, as we were leaving to go to the TRIA for my checkup, I think, that UPS guy was getting back into his truck, and he yelled, he said, thank you for the fudge. The least you could do for a guy who's probably not even getting a lunch hour. Oh, did you come to visit? This is the wrong side. Yeah, you can't visit on this side. You know better. Hey, the Instagram hashtags are back. I didn't realize that they had taken the hashtags down, sort of, for the election, because people were using naughty and subversive hashtags. And so Instagram just kind of rerouted those for a while. But if you check out the IROCKNITTERS hashtag, we've got all kinds of projects in there now. Over 500 different hashtags are out there, people using IROCKNITTERS, and so that's really fun, because now we can go back and kind of see what people are knitting on. I'm not going to try to go through all of those today, because we just got a huge influx of new ones, but go take a look or follow that hashtag so that you can keep up with other people who watch the podcast. Have you joined my newsletter list on my website. I just want to put it out there that I have 9 new patterns coming out shortly in the new year. Amber did all the photography for me again on Saturday. They had planned to do it the weekend before and it poured rain. And so she had to reschedule her niece and her daughter to do those with me and a dog. So hint, hint on that one. But they got all those photographs taken, and so probably within the next 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks after that, and 2 weeks after that, I will be putting sets. I did sets, so I have, just as a sneak peek, I have a hat and a cowl. I have a hat, a cowl, and a mitt. I have a blanket. I have a baby blanket. So I have little sets of things that are coming out. I'm really excited to get those all out into the world. I just made my list for 2021 of the things that I want to because I'm dreaming right now because I can't knit. And I got a huge list and some really fun ideas for 2 different large projects. I'm just going to leave it at that, but it might have another big, huge project to undertake for a few months. An idea that I'm going to run by someone shortly here. I'm going to be working from home for the next 6 months, I think, and so I may as well get some more design work done. Should be able to podcast really regularly throughout the year and get some new design things out. If you sign up with your email address on my website, the only email you get from me is an announcement of a new pattern coming out and a discount. And I want those of you who watch the podcast to get those discounts, right? Like, you're loyal folks. And you have hung in there with me, some of you, since the very beginning. And so I really deep discount, especially in the first 24 to 36 hours for those people who are signed up for my newsletter. So you don't get a lot of spam from me. You don't get a weekly blog post. You don't get a monthly blog post. But because I have all these designs coming out, I just thought I should mention it, that I will each time put out an email that will say in the banner, in the headline, new pattern and a discount, so that you don't even have to open it if it doesn't interest you. I will be talking about those on the podcast, and so I'll try to highlight those on the podcast closest to the day that I'm going to be putting it up on Ravelry, Etsy, and Lovecraft. Those are the places that the patterns will always be available and that the coupon codes would be able to be used. So I just wanted to put that out there. Last thing, I have a very brief CORI'S stories this week. It's not super funny or hilarious like some of you found the last podcast where we had the broken toilet and the wet bed. If you haven't listened to that, you might want to go back and get your laugh on there. But I just want to thank everyone for your letters to my mother-in-law, May. She is getting letters daily, postcards, gifts, and it has been really fun to talk to her. Yesterday was her 91st birthday, and we didn't call her until late in the day. Things got away from us, and I said to her, did they do anything special? Did you get to have, cake? Did anybody sing? And she said no. And I thought, oh, that's so sad. I do think her son, Joel, Ross's brother, went over to see her, and she said she got phone calls, and we sent her flowers, which she thought was, she said, I just love fresh cut flowers. So she had gotten those on Friday from us, but she got 21 letters one day. 11 were holiday cards from friends and family, and then 10 of them were letters or postcards from all of you. She has been giddy with excitement when I talk to her because she tells me how many she got that day. And she said, we haven't got mail yet today, but I'm sure I'll get some more. And as I said, she is feeling bad that she cannot write back to each and every one of you, but I know you all understand. She said even her eyesight is getting bad for her to see the line and to keep her handwriting on the line. She's getting awfully shaky. And she was trying to do Christmas cards to everyone. And she told us, this is the last year I'm sending Christmas cards out. I just can't do it anymore. So I'm telling people. And I thought, yeah, it's probably time to not send 60 Christmas cards out. She writes a handmade letter to each of those people. So my parents were going to call her Saturday or yesterday too, and I haven't talked to them to see if they got in touch with her, but I just want to thank you so much. I know she's going to get a card from someone in Ireland, and today someone got in touch and is sent one from Australia, and that's just, so out of her realm or scope of, she didn't even know what a podcast was, and now she says podcast like she knows what she's talking about. I got him from the podcast, she'll say. And so it has just been a real gift that so many of you were willing to do that for her during this time when Christmas. She asked if she could leave the building and go to her sons for Christmas, and they said no. And I don't think she realized that no one is leaving nursing home facilities right now and going back. And we physically would be unable to do it at this time. She's in a wheelchair and does not walk, and so needs orderlies to help her move from bed to chair and chair to bathroom. So we couldn't bring her into someone's home or travel with her. Her legs are very frail. Her mind is sharp. And apparently her eyesight is going a little, and I don't know that she's had her eyes checked recently, but we'll check on that. I know she has that kind of eyelid problem where the eyelid starts to kind of hang over the top, and then it makes it difficult to see. But so many of you were right on it and said, I want to send her something, and you did, and you followed through, and it was a gift. It was a gift to me, and it was a gift to her, and I just feel so thankful. So I just wanted to tell you about that and her birthday, and we are going to drive down on Christmas Day to see her. We can't go in. We will speak to her through the window via a screen. They open the screen just a little bit, and she sits behind the window with a mask. We will stand outside. It will be cold, but we are going to deliver her gifts in person. It's about an hour and a half to 2 hour drive for us to go down. And I just said to my husband, we don't have anything else going on. We're not seeing anyone else. So why wouldn't we drive down and drop off her gifts? We bought her some new clothes, some pants, sweatshirts, little top shirt, short sleeve, collared shirts that she wanted. And then she could, try them on and see that they're going to fit, or at least hold them up and tell us if she likes them. Because that's always hard to buy things for someone else. But I will see her on that day. I'm going to put a picture of my mother-in-law so you all know, you can picture her in your minds. I thought, I've been talking about her, you've sent her cards, and then I have never shown. She's a beautiful, older woman with white hair that many of us would love to grow, curls, and so she has gotten some word find books, and she said, no more word finds, I'll never get them all done. So that was just very kind. I started watching a Netflix show called Pretty Little Things. It's about ballerinas in Chicago. I am not a prude, but it is really, really naughty and super popular on Netflix. And I'm thinking, do parents know? Because if you have young girls who want to watch a ballerina show and you're not paying attention, there is nudity, sex, innuendo. It's a dark thriller. It's just not what I expected, right? Like, I'm thinking Fame. Whew. And I watched a couple of episodes and I was just really surprised. It's rated MA for mature audiences, and I thought, how many people look at that? I want to know if any other of you started watching that and were just like taken aback. Like, when it's unexpected like that, right? Like, I've watched naughty shows. Like, I watched The Tudors and Shameless, right? They're naughty, but I was not expecting this show about a ballet school in Chicago to be naughty. Am I blushing? Whew! I told my mom, I said, don't turn it on. I don't know if you and Dad would start watching that, but Dad will just be shocked. So, whew, kind of surprising. I've watched a ton of stuff. Some really good stuff. I've watched some documentaries. I'm in the chair. I'm icing a lot. I ice my hand a lot. I was icing my foot a lot. I have the boot on and the hand brace on, and I have to sleep in a plastic splint that's pretty good sized, and my hand. So going to bed has been, a challenge. Rolling over. I told my husband that, if I hit him, I could hurt him, because this had a sharp piece on it. My cast had some sharp pieces on it. We had to, when they took it off and put it back on, they exposed the part that was completely covering the thumb, and I said, we gotta put tape over this. I could cut you. And he's like, you're not gonna cut me in the night. I said, honey, it is really hard when you're laying flat on your back to lift and swing your leg over. You kind of got to get a little momentum going to swing that leg over, to prop your foot on a pillow over there and your hand on a pillow over here. Whew, that's a lot. I've been sleeping a lot. I stay up late, but I sleep in really late in the morning. And I'm fine with that. I know it's good for healing and rest. I'm taking care of myself. I'm not overdoing it. Please don't worry about me in that respect. But one morning he came in, he opened the door, and I heard the door open, and I said, what? And he said, are you okay? And I said, why? And he said, it's 11:20. And I was like, you have got to be kidding. And he said, no, I had to check on you. And I said, I rolled over at 8:30. I was just out. I was early on taking Tylenol PM, and then for a couple nights I didn't sleep, so then I took a melatonin. And so, you just kind of get back in your sleep rhythm. I had a couple of nights where I had the chills all night, just freezing cold, couldn't get warm, had to get up and put on a fleece and socks and an extra blanket. And that happened after both surgeries, one, a few nights later, and then twice after the second surgery. And I think that's just like medication, leaving your body or you adjusting. I've had flushed cheeks a couple of days where my husband has said, wow, your cheeks are really flushed, no real temperature or anything, but, lots of drugs when you have two surgeries 9 days apart. So you kind of I'm drinking tons of water, and you have to go to the bathroom all the time. No more broken toilets. Thank you so much for watching. I would love it if you would subscribe or give me a thumbs up underneath the podcast. I'm trying to grow this audience a little bit and reach a few more people. I really appreciate you coming every single week and spending an hour with me while I babble on about knitting and all things that I'm passionate about, food and books. So we probably really shouldn't call it a knitting podcast exclusively, because we all know it isn't. It's really a Cori talking podcast. Maybe I should name it Cori Talks, because sometimes I just open my mouth and all the stuff comes out. I had 135 comments I think I had to make back. So it's half that because I comment. So it counts as a comment, I think, is how it works. Deb Vandermolen, thank you for your really nice, thoughtful emails to me, Deb. Michelle M., Amy Michelson, Kathy Evans, Suzanne Selby, Eileen Tomero, Stacy Fichtner, Elle LeBlanc, Margarita Diverson, Ellen Neugeberger, Bauer. When I typed that, I thought, I'm going to remember how to say that. Penny, Joanne Goldenberg, Annie Vanaski Waters, Glenda Bathgate, Virginia McIntosh, Janet Goyer, Danielle Brown, Kat Montgomery, Donna Fink, Stacy B., Cheryl Lacemaker, Connie S., Kathy B., Peggy Bork, Kimberly Penny, Angela Jenkins, S.E. Wilhite, Luana Hendricks, Janet Robertson, Mary M., Kat Gore, Cheryl Clute, Carol Morrison, Sandra Bendig, Susan Larson, Terry Monk, Susan Singh, Kathy Bertel, Nikki Leffler, Brandy Stoker, Olivia Mankey, R.S.B. Design, Susie Fab, Victoria Knits, Emily Sauprasuth, Rebecca Knutson, Melanie Cahoon, Bonnie Glass, Pat Howes, Christina Carr, Wendy Morris, Pat Wagner, Fernie, Michelle, Emma Butcher, Kathy Goodman, Karen H., Jan Anderson, Candy Harris, HBWT40, Denise Norberg, Heather Wilson, Robin Gasser, Patty Skaggs, Jackie Wagner, Kara Parkman, and Bonnie. Bonnie is a friend I met at a knitting retreat, and she lives just across on the other side of the city, and I reached out to her and said, hey, can you chat with me? So we talked for an hour and a half. I talked, she listened on Saturday. It was very nice of her. I was getting a little stir crazy and bored. I do think about all of you a lot, and some of you have shared things that you have going on. Some of you have had your own surgeries. Some of you have been ill or are taking care of people who are ill. I can't imagine what it would be like to get a diagnosis during this time of something that is chronic or an illness or cancer. Certainly that would make it even harder. So I think about you and lift you up. And until next time, waddle on. That's about all I can say, because I really feel like I'm waddling some days. But no green bananas. Keep it colorful. Keep your fork. And I love you all. Bye.